This is going to be a short video talking about a recent discovery, one of many that NASA scientists had hoped to find and will continue to likely find. They make the charge that science, some theistic and theocratic ideals are that science, by its nature, tends to make life meaningless, tends to make life insignificant. This would be almost true if not for the fact that we are finding many more Earths or Earth-like planets that are almost identical to our own planets out there in the universe, handcrafted. If I am to believe some of the theistic ideals out there, handcrafted by your creator. Sure, this might be the only Earth in this particular configuration. Heck, we may be the only Earth with life at this point in time, though mathematically that is an ignorant ideal and is not substantiated by anything other than the idea of, oh my god, Earth is the center of the universe, which it's not, of course, but I digress. With the discoveries of this, though, it makes it to where our planet, indeed a habitable planet, just the right distance away from our sun, is not unique. Thus, this idea that, that we're the end-all be-all, that we are everything, and we are the alpha, we are the omega of the universe, that there's nothing out there like us. There's nothing out there in terms of planetoids like ours. That's not the case. So let me read this, let me finish my opining, make of this what you will. I'm not trying, seriously not trying to beat up on theists. I'm not. I am trying to get across the message that if you ignore science, there's so much out there that is beautiful. When you look out into the far galaxies and you see what nature has crafted, or for the sake of argument that your creator has crafted, you see so many beautiful things that we just wouldn't see if we just plunked down, never looked closer at the sky, and looked out to see what's beyond us, what's beyond our solar system, what is at the center of our galaxy. Heck, the sun isn't even the center of our galaxy. It's barely the center of our solar system if you start to look at some of the extra, the exoplanets and things of this nature here, but I'm getting off on a huge rant here. Let me read this. Earth-like planet spotted. KOI 172.02 orbits star like our sun. Less than 2 weeks after astronomers predicted that they would find an Earth-like planet sometime in 2013. A feat may have already been accomplished. Scientists this week announced at the 221st meeting of American Astronomical Society that the Kepler telescope has found, quote, a super Earth, whose radius is 1.5 times that of our own. It exists in a habitable zone, orbits a star similar to our sun, and possibly contains water. Space.com dubs it the most Earth-like world yet detected outside our solar system. This is the very exciting. It's our first habitable zone super-Earth around a sun-type star, says the Kepler astronomer. The Earth-like planet orbits a G-type star, one that's nearly as hot as our sun, once every 242 days. Which for me brings up an interesting quandary about age. Like, I know the biological processes of our bodies, but what might the biological processes of the life on that planet be if their year is only 242 days long? Do they age faster? Is their molecular aging at all tied to, their Earth in that sense necessarily, or how does that all work? granted, that's a stupid thing to ask, and I concede to that, but it still makes you wonder, if you have a shorter year, what does that mean for everything else that's involved with this planet? It's a big deal, adds an astrophysicist of the planet named KOI 172.02. It's definitely a good candidate for life. The news comes just a couple of days after astronomers announced that there were probably around 17 billion Earth-sized planets around the Milky Way. Here's the thing, okay? You say that science makes life meaningless. On some scales, you're right, but not entirely. But then why would the Creator create upwards of 17 billion other Earths out there in space, making this Earth not that special? Sure, we have specific geography. We also have a moon, as well as our sun in its particular type of star, in and of itself. We're part of a solar system. That still does not really qualify us as being unique in this universe. We are but a speck of dust amongst trillions of specks of dust, and if M theory holds out, we're not even that in the grand scheme of the grand everything that is the multiverse. And you act as if, oh, well, you talk about the sun will end or the universe will end, making all of human existence worthless. What about the rapture? What about the apocalypse? You act as if, in the case of some of the different religions out there, that there isn't some sort of final stop, where we stop being able to produce more human beings, where we stop even being on this very earth. Unless, of course, we're wicked, in which case a hell on earth comes, depending on your depiction of the rapture, the apocalypse, your sect of Christianity, so on and so forth, as well as your religious beliefs in general. Almost every religion points to some sort of end, and yet they're considered the better. Why? Because some of us get to go on and on. Well, actually, all of us go on and on. Just some of us get paradise, and the rest of us get to burn and suffer for the evils that we have committed. Ultimately, what is going to be accomplished in heaven or in hell at that end? An archive of all of us, an archive of our existence and everything else is going to be stored up. So all of our accomplishments, all of our achievements, all of our everything is somehow going to be stored up there in somehow, some way. And everything else that could matter, including this earth, will be laid to waste. And this beautiful earth, and it is beautiful, will become a hellish nightmare. Likely either a fire and brimstone or just a Mad Max-like apocalypse, where everyone you know and love who is good is gone and dead, and everybody else is left to fend for themselves. No more food, no more TV, no more Xbox, all of it gone. To wallow in the self-pity and the evils of all the things that we wrought upon ourselves by simply not believing or not worshiping a certain way or not following certain tenets or not apologizing enough for being human, not filleting ourselves enough for being human, and so on and so forth. There just comes a point to where, this earth, this creation is going to be for naught. Unless you savor the idea of a hell on earth that takes out the earth, but it all at the same time punishes those that you yourself or that your particular mindset or sect of religion deems to be evil. Let's cut the crap. Both sides have an end to everything. Both sides have a moment to where everything is for nothing, outside of the fact that you can lounge up somewhere above the clouds if you're devout enough, if you do the things that you're supposed to do as commanded by your particular God. Meanwhile, some of the same-minded people, because you all cannot be right, remember. Meanwhile, some of these same-minded people will be down here with us wondering why they aren't up there, wondering why they don't get to be up there when they were just as devout as you were, They just apparently picked the wrong God, the wrong book, the wrong whatever. I don't see why we have to be enemies here, in other words. I don't see why we have to down each other. Again, I'm not here to destroy your books. I am definitely not here to burn your churches, mosques, synagogues, what have you. But if you're going to stand here and say that science is evil because science ruins life, it takes the magic out of life, it doesn't. If anything, some of our greatest scientific minds, or our best minds out there trying to help to make sure that people don't take advantage of your religious beliefs and do evil things while acting as if they're doing things in your faith, that they get exposed. James Randi, he is a magician. He's also somebody who's scientifically minded and has a research team behind him to help him research when things are not quite on the level and try to expose people who just want your money and will not give you that salvation you think that they are, and actually have the potential of hurting you in the case of when you're asking for help for medical reasons. We need each other in some capacities. Some of us need you more than others, and I respect that when they're not trying to force me into their mindset, to force me into their fold. Equally, I'm not trying to say you need to give up your God. I am definitely not trying to say you need to give up your book or your churches or what have you. But when I see a lack of critical thinking in today's world and people asking what happened to this world, when I see a lack of scientific literacy, or in some cases almost any kind of literacy, and I see people who've had a hand that's been dealt to them not because of any systems out there, but because it was the beliefs of their parents. I have a problem with that. And if you're going to fire off a shot that science ruins this world, that it makes it insignificant, I would say go back and read Revelations. Go back and read about the rapture. Go back and read about the apocalypse, and then tell me that all of this is for something at some point, and that it's wonderful, especially if your gamble is wrong and you picked the wrong book and the wrong God. Just asking you guys to think, that's at the very least, as well as to point out that we are insignificant for the most part, but that doesn't mean anything bad. It doesn't mean that I get to do bad things and there's no consequences. And I'm not just talking about the law. I don't need the law to know that stealing is bad. I don't need the law to know that killing is wrong and not good. I don't need the law to know that rape is never an option, nor am I have that proclivity. I don't need the law to understand that that having sex with a minor or battering a minor is wrong. And I get tired of people who say that I have to have a God in my life, or I don't know that these things are wrong and I can commit atrocities. The thing that science just says is life's about having fun within reason. And you guys aren't that much off from us. You just happen to have much more stricter rules at times that don't make sense and don't benefit anybody but those at the top. And I can't stand for that. But at this point, I'm not here to try to challenge that, because that's your problem, not my problem. But when those people at the top do make it my problem and overstep the bounds that religion rightfully should have, that's when we do have a problem. That's when myself and people like Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson have to stand up and say, enough. This is where you go and no further. And no, that is not a restriction of your religious freedoms. That is you wanting exceptionalism to use your religion as an excuse, to excuse your human nature that you don't like to acknowledge, so that you can take away people's rights that you do not agree with. And that is never okay, even if we were to try to do it ourselves.